What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the Reclamation. This episode, my guest is Nikko Miyatake. I met Nikko through his cacao business. Cacao is something that I really love to utilize in my own practice with myself and in practices with circle work and other clients and my family. We use it actually every winter solstice. Sipping cacao is part of our ceremony and ritual that surrounds our winter solstice celebration. So I wanted to bring Nikko on because cacao, I think, is something that's becoming more popularized. I wanted to talk about cacao, but also Nikko has a story of reclamation, which ties us back into the roots of the creation of this podcast, which is people's individual personal reclamation stories. So Nikko is actually the owner of Nikko Cacao and Maya Superfoods. Both are linked in the show notes. He had a deep immersion in the world of cacao, including 6 months of intensive training with a shaman in Guatemala, which he talks about in the episode. Nikko is a dedicated entrepreneur and holistic wellness practitioner. He's got over a decade of experience guiding transformative cacao ceremonies and yoga pranayama classes, one of which I was able to attend with my husband. It was really great. And Nikko is very grounded and wants to encourage people to just follow the simple fundamentals and principles of life, which he'll talk about in the episode as well. Nikko is also a certified Ayurvedic health counselor, and he draws from these ancient healing traditions to promote balance and harmony in people's lives. In this episode, you're going to hear again how he got into cacao, what it means to work with the plant. At about 1 hour 22 minutes in, he talks more in depth about cacao as well. But this episode isn't all about cacao. Remember the personal reclamation story. Nikko shares his reclamation story. We chat about his experience within a cult, the proliferation of cults, what they embody, and the codependent narcissistic relationships that tend to flourish within cult systems. And if you stay to the end, at about 1 hour and 5 minutes, Nikko talks about how his experiences within that system and his experiences under the direction and mentorship of the shaman have informed the way he shows up and how he holds space, which empowers people to be sovereign in their life experiences and choices. So I hope you enjoy the episode. Links below for all of Nikko's products. And if you are curious to know when the next episode in the Intimacy series gets published, stay tuned. It's coming your way very shortly. It's coming your way. Okay, enjoy the episode. So my podcast encompasses a few different ways of approaching reclamation. And one of my favorite ways is through people telling their personal stories, because those are, I think, more relatable when we can tap into somebody's life and touch into all the points that we're like, oh, me too. Oh, yeah. If they can do it, I can do it, which is the position I assume you're at of someone who is wanting to encourage that for others. Yeah. So that being said, from you, however you want to tell your story, whatever parts you want to include that make you feel like, like when you read a book and you're like, okay, we need to have character development here.
Yeah. No, totally. I would love to. It's kind of it might take a little bit, but I'd love to like, go through it kind of
Yeah.
thoroughly and just explain because it's kind of unique and a little bit uh, people will be able to relate. But so if I could start from, I guess, the beginning, let's see. I guess I met this guy. He was a cacao shaman. Although he didn't claim that title himself, he
Mm,
everyone who worked with him kind of they called him that just because he was working with cacao and he did a lot of intuitive processing and inner work with cacao. So I met him when I was about 18. He was touring through Salt Lake City, and I happened to be in a Reiki group at that time, getting a Reiki certification with my mom. My mom was like, "Hey, I'm going to this class. Do you want to come?" And I was like, "Yeah, I'd love to go." I didn't really, it was like I intuitively felt like I should go because I didn't really know, but something in me was just like, "Yeah, you got to go."
Can I ask you a few questions off
Yeah.
of just that?
Sure.
Because in what I am aware of, finding men in Reiki practicing is unique. Did you find yourself a man amongst many women?
Yeah, they were mostly women. There was two gay guys that were in that
Okay.
Reiki class, and so and I was, I think everyone else was at least like 35 or 40, and I was
Mm.
8. I was the youngest one in there by far.
How old were
Um,
you?
I was 18.
Okay, so this sparks my second question even brighter, which is what do you think you already had within you that made it so you were open to Reiki when the invitation came your way? What did you already possess that attracted you that way?
Yeah. Well, I think it was really my mom. I lived with my mom at the time. My parents were divorced, and she was struggling with Lyme's disease. So she was
Mm,
trying to figure out all of these natural, holistic, alternative health remedies that might help her along her journey. And so she was into it. She was like using herbs. She was eating clean. She was looking for alternative medicine, going to chiropractors, doing kinesiology. Um, and so I was kind of, I guess, primed for it. I
mm,
would say a lot of that had to do with my mom. She kind of opened that world to me.
mm.
And I think I just took to it really well. Like when I was 17 or 18, I studied herbs a lot. I was like really
Ah, mm,
fascinated by what they could do for the body and illness and stuff. And so that primed me for sure.
yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Thanks for sharing that. I was
Yeah.
curious about it.
I guess I should, for context too, like my dad he really wanted all of his kids to go to college and kind of pursue
Mm,
this more traditional route. And so I had gotten out of high school and I took a year off to just figure out what I really wanted to do. But a year after high school, I was in college and I was studying to become um, a chiropractor or a naturopath. And so I was in that. And at the same time, I was like working with this shaman who it was just kind of like, wow, I love this. I think this is so cool. And so I ended up working with him for about 2 years over Skype. He was in Guatemala, and I was just in Ogden, Utah at the time,
mm,
and I was just kind of fascinated and intrigued at this whole concept of like our inner world and that there's so much more to life than just this third dimensional reality. And it's kind of funny. It just like I'll make a note. I've kind of come full circle since then in a lot of ways, but I'll talk about that later. So
okay.
I worked with him for 2 years, and then let's see, I was 21 at the time. He saw that I loved it and that I kind of had a knack for this kind of work, I guess. And he was like, "You, why don't you be a scholarship student and I'll pay your way to come down to
Wow.
Guatemala and you can study the human energy field, or what I think those are the terms he used, on my porch.
Oh my gosh.
And so I was just like, what, are you kidding me? And so I dropped out of college. I quit my job. I was like, I told my girlfriend at the time, I've got to do this. And so I ended up getting a one-way ticket down there. And then yeah, so I ended up going to Heath's Porch in Guatemala in San Marcos. And San Marcos is, have you ever been to Lake Atitlan?
No.
So it's a, have you heard of it?
No.
Okay, people would call it like an energy vortex.
Oh.
It tends to be, it's a very special place. And the Mayans, it's, what do I say? It's a place of spiritual significance for the Mayan culture.
Okay.
And so that
Can
lake
you
is,
say it
it's
again? The place?
San Marcos, or Lake Atitlan. So there's a whole bunch of little
Okay.
towns around Lake Atitlan, and San Marcos is one of them.
Okay.
It's changed a lot now. It's very touristy, and lots of kind of hippies from all over the place go there. But
This isn't the lake where there's an island in the middle of it that quits. Okay.
um
I know some lore.
maybe, actually, yeah, maybe there's some lore or legend about that, but I don't know. It's a good
Okay.
question.
Okay.
Yeah, so anyways, I go down there and I start working with him. One of the things that he had set up for me, because he knew I was into natural medicine, he had another student or friend down there who was a acupuncturist. He was part of a free mobile health clinic in rural parts of Guatemala, so about 4 hours from the lake, and he was treating people for free with acupuncture,
Wow.
massage, and Reiki. And
Wow.
so he set me up with that guy. And so for 3 days, 4 days out of the week, I was volunteering at that free mobile health clinic. And then the other half of the week, I was doing porch uh, cacao ceremonies on Keith's porch. And so I had this routine that I got into for about 6 months. And it was just, I'd never, I guess I was born in another country, but I'm 21. I kind of, since I grew up Mormon, I kind of equate that time to like a Mormon mission in a sense. And so I was doing service work half the week, and I was doing my own work the other half of the week.
Mm-hmm.
And it was just like a very profound and formative time for me. Um, Keith, sometimes like his porch wasn't very big. It was maybe the size of like 2 bedrooms, standard
Okay.
size bedrooms. And sometimes he'd have like 40 or 50 people just from all over the world that just found their way there.
Wow.
Um, in my opinion, in retrospect, he's kind of one of the main reasons why ceremonial cacao is a thing
Oh.
today. Um, but I guess other than that, people were into it because of its artisan chocolate or craft chocolate, like these fine flavor cacao type people. He introduced it to a lot of Westerners.
Yeah. Okay.
And before that, it was more just like the indigenous people knew, like the Mayans knew about it, and
Yeah.
its importance and sacredness as a spiritual partner.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so Keith, that was like a big part of his work, was with the cacao, but it wasn't everything that he did. In fact, he always used to mention how the cacao is optional because,
Mm.
I mean, he used the term, um, I wouldn't want to call it a drug, but like the substances aren't required to do the inner work. But cacao was it was used as a facilitator and partnership tool to aid that inner work, because it is a heart opener, and it does help connect us to our roots, like our ancestral roots, or our personal lineage, or our own, I guess I like to think of it as like our authentic spirit, like our most authentic self. So Keith had this spiel, this like intro talk that he would always give kind of at the beginning of his of his sessions. He always talked about this old legend that he found in some archaeological papers that he had dug up. The legend said that when mankind gets out of harmony with the natural world, that cacao will emerge from the rainforest to help reestablish the harmony.
Oh,
And
I
so,
really like that too, because I agree in the sense that we have become disconnected from Earth. Even even the basic parts of farming have been lost to the vast majority of us, knowing how to put our hands in the dirt and grow food, right? Which was done by most of the people ancestrally, and that's the connection to the earth. And so, bringing back our connection to the earth, I like cacao because it's very accessible, and like you can give a wide variety of people cacao versus maybe some of the other spiritual partnerships with plants that are a little bit more inaccessible or just need a little bit more caution and a
right,
training around them. So I like cacao for that
right.
in
It's,
regrounding ourselves with the earth.
yeah, the language he used to kind of describe what you're saying is he referred to cacao as a plant medicine partner, not a teacher. Because those some of those plant medicine teachers, they take you on a trip. They don't, not that they do the work for you, but they kind of blast you off in a
Yeah.
way.
Yeah.
And cacao like brings the door to you, and then you have the
Mm.
opportunity to go through the door. But so it works with you, not for you. It provides a type of access or a type of connection that makes it easier to connect with whatever you're wanting to connect with. And so it's a very gentle partnership tool, which is awesome because it's more empowering in that sense. Like, the plant medicine teachers, they take you on a journey, but which cacao can do, but only by and from your own will. Um, so it's a beautiful tool in that regard for sure. I had a lot of very powerful experiences on the porch, and so did a lot of other people. I think that Keith was, in a lot of ways, kind of like what what do we say, like a spiritual elder,
Yeah.
like something that's missing from our society today.
Mm.
We don't have the elders, we don't have like the monks or yogis or teachers or gurus or seers to validate people's spiritual gifts to and
Mm.
it's completely missing from our society today. And so I think Keith was uh he was a big part of that. I think that maybe more than anything else, he just kind of validated um not just people's gifts, but he just like saw them. He was so, I swear, he could see through people so easily and so well, but he never made them feel unsafe. Like, if I could describe him and what his mastery was, he was so good at helping people unfold the layers around themselves that are kind of keeping them from who they really are. But he did it in such a gentle way. People called him a shaman or whatever, but like he wasn't a perfect guy. He wasn't like this like god or deity or whatever. He was human, just like the rest of us, but he had a very interesting line of work. I ended up working with him for 6 months down there. And to kind of move the story along a little bit, I I later, and this is like what I didn't talk about on social media so much because it's more personal. I don't really know how to like get the right words or whatever. But
Yeah.
um, in retrospect, now I think that that experience led me to kind of getting into a cult. I was like a part of a very small cult, and And today when I look back, I'm kind of able to see like, oh yeah, that was, maybe I was in the cacao cult or whatever you want to call it. And now my whole perspective has like shifted because I want to believe, and I'm sure a lot of people do. I want to believe in all of the good things that the spiritual community or the new age community promise or have to offer. But because of the experiences that I went through um in a cult, I realized that like I have to temper, like I want to believe in all of the good that maybe the cacao does, or like all of this, meditate, not, they're good things, but I counter it with like I have to question it. Like I have to be like, I want to believe in it so much that I have to be a skeptic. Does that make sense?
It absolutely makes sense, and how interesting it is that you're bringing this up, because personally I've been wanting to bring more of this type of discussion in, where we really need people to be able to think for themselves.
Yeah, 100%.
So
Yeah,
questioning is a good way to do that. I'm curious about the cult in aspects that could be helpful, because I agree with you and I had similar experience to you, as have many who maybe segue from one cult into another without
right,
realizing it.
right,
And I agree with you that I have experienced and seen the type of cultish behavior that exists within the wellness and the spiritual community, and I think anywhere,
right,
when you're not in ability to ask questions, to challenge the narrative. Okay, hey everybody, we are going to take a quick timeout so I can tell y'all about TBM, which stands for To Be Magnetic. TBM is a neural manifestation program that I have been doing now for over a year. I know. Manifestation is a hot buzzword right now, and there's a lot out there about the how, the what, the when, the where, and the why of manifesting. I actually love that. We are all different. I think it makes sense. There are a lot of different ways to go about anything, really. That being said, I am choosing to promote TBM. Not only is it science backed using neuroplasticity, EMDR, hypnosis, etc., to get you into alignment with your authentic desires, which means manifesting from the heart and the soul rather than the ego. But the program also supports my favorite theme, coming back home to ourselves. Outside of manifesting into my life the vibes that fit my authenticity, I've been able to uncover and heal so many layers of pain, shame, and conditioning that stood in the way of living a life where I feel whole and worthy inherently. Outside of any label, title, accolades, I'm worthy and whole because I just am. I am sharing TBM with you for that reason primarily. Coming back to ourselves, discovering our inherent worth, well, that is a reclamation worth living for. To learn more about TBM, check the show notes. I'll direct you to their podcast, a specific episode where you can hear all about the manifestation process. When you're ready to join the program with me, you can get 15% off the membership using my code MALIA, all caps MALIA, for 15% off. The link to the membership will also be in my show notes. Okay, love you all very much. Let's get back to the episode. So, I would love if you could, again, because it's helpful to people who listen to my podcast, because I'm all about the spirituality, I'm all about the wellness, I'm all about the
mhm,
natural things, I'm all about the big, beautiful story.
mhm.
But so easily we can become entrapped in
Yeah,
these ideas that exist. So what if you are open to it, in that retrospect, in that realization, what were some of the highlighted points of like, oh, this, and this would be definitely something I would encourage others to be aware of?
Yeah. It's hard to say because you first of all, lots of things can take on a cult-like structure or mentality. Businesses, universities, schools, religions, nonprofit organizations, like people love to be a part of them. People love that. I think like a higher octave word or description for cult was just like tribal mentality, right? Like our
A
community, our
sense of belonging,
yeah,
and usually you have um there's this sense of increased value too.
right. And in a cult, that sense of increased value is usually bestowed by the leader and
Mhm.
is used covertly to indirectly strengthen the leader or like give to their own rapport while they can describe it as like, oh, I'm helping you, but really like I'm actually getting all of this attention and whatever accolades or whatever. And so if it's not, let's say if it's a good cult, right? Like the leader is doing those things um for the betterment of the group, to maybe to keep um like the group morale high or just to be of service to someone else. Your ability to think for yourself, your ability to think critically and to question things is super important and can be the thing that helps you exit a cult if you're in something like that. But it's just healthy skepticism, you know, like we have to ask questions. You can't just go along with the herd mentality. And if you do, it can be very dangerous because like you move 1 centimeter at a time. And if you do that for 3, 4, 5 years, you move that person's getting moved 1 centimeter at a time. It's like, oh my gosh, how the hell did I end up here over all this time? And so I like to use the analogy of um, the frog in the boiling pot, you know,
Mhm.
like they're in there and it's like, oh, it's so comfy, it's so nice in here, and it slowly gets warmer and warmer and warmer until they're burning, until they're cooking, and then it's hard to get out. And so
This is it mirrors in my perspective relationship between narcissist and codependent.
mhm,
And for my uh walk down the retrospect lane, I recognized that I was pretty codependent. And so having that cult leader with that narcissistic traits um, was someone that was easy for me to, well, easy for them to have me as a follower
yeah,
because it's hard for me to stand on my own.
right. And that's you know, at the time of my life where I got into that cult, I was codependent. I was looking for someone to like save me, you know, I wanted to
Mm,
be like helped or I can completely relate to all of that. And fast forward to the point where I kind of got out, I really had to take an honest inventory with like, okay, what got me into this situation? Like I need to clearly go through and recognize how I got in here so that I can never do this again.
mhm,
I had to take, I guess, learn the hard way, but actually that I now that whole thing was such a huge blessing. Like it's galvanized me into who I am today.
mm,
And I don't think I would be the person I am. And it's hard because I feel like I've changed and I've had to grieve parts of myself that I feel like I lost. Um, but it's worth it. It's taught me how to be independent and self-reliant and to like take care of myself. And that's all I really want for anyone. I mean, it's, you know, it we have to learn to think for ourselves. And I also learned like if you just expand that thing to a larger level, this is kind of what what countries and governments are doing with their people, with different their groups of citizens, and it's like, how do you deal with that? Like, how do
Mhm.
you deal with these people that you don't have control over in your life, but they impact your life?
Mm.
And so um, it's a very deep thing in life to be able to not just cope with it, but like have it happen and continue to live like empowered, you know?
Yeah, yeah. I think that what you alluded to there is what has really been brought into my field of awareness, more heavily in bold letters now, is that our ability to think for ourselves is going to be increasingly necessary. Alongside that is all of, I'm assuming, the experiences and things you learned while you did work with the shaman, while you did uh, move and work with energy, and that's knowing ourselves, thinking for ourselves here in our brains, in our mind, our capacity here, but also within our own bodies and how our bodies hold energy, how they're moving, how they're functioning alongside, in a nice pair. Because I think I heavily preach about the body, to follow the messages of the body. And maybe that's why it's coming in bold to me right now. It's like also the mind.
Yeah.
Also, the mind is very important for us. Are you open to maybe just going a little bit deeper? If you can, you said you had to get really honest with yourself, which for me is something I look for in somebody's reclamation journey, is when they had to get really honest with themselves, because that can be so challenging that we never do it. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Like, oh, I have to look at this thing about myself, or this thing that I did, or these decisions that I made, and really face up to the responsibility of them. And it's scary.
Yeah.
So many of us run from that. If
Yeah.
there's any of those that you're willing to share, that
Yeah.
the challenges that you had to own up to.
Yeah. And it it never ends, right? Like,
Mm.
there's layers to it.
Never ends, but would you say it gets easier to do because, like, you did reflect on how much better your life is, and
Yeah.
so you have understood the gold coin at the end of the rainbow type thing?
Yeah.
Gets easier to do.
Yeah. The obstacle is the path in a way, right?
Mm.
So like for me, I recognized that, I was codependent. I kind of wanted someone to take care of me in my early 20s. I think I felt pretty inadequate because um, I was living at my sister's house and I like could barely afford rent there, and she was just and too sweet, she
Mm.
like was like, I'll take care of you, whatever. But as a young man, I think that like really can stifle your
Mm.
confidence and self-esteem. And so, yeah, I was codependent. I wanted someone to take care of me. I was kind of looking for some type of savior figure outside of myself to do that. And the new agers are gonna love this. I was in denial. I was spiritually bypassing. I thought that with doing enough meditation or breath work or like affirmations and journaling that I could get out of it.
Mhm.
And that's just not how it works. You
Mm.
just have to put in the work. You have to take action. Um, you can't just sit around and write and plan and think your way into a better situation. Those things matter, but not as much as just taking the action does. And so that's honestly been one of the biggest uh, tools or solutions, is like people people just got to put in the work. I think a lot of folks kind of maybe who haven't found their um, what do we want to say, their path to reclamation yet, they don't understand the value of just putting in the time and energy and work that is required to build a better life.
Mm-hmm.
And so for me,
Mm-hmm.
like, I know that when I'm not feeling well or if I'm having anxiety, and I know that I like need to do things, I'm trying to train myself to just be like, oh, I need to go work. I need to like work towards that. Like, what action can I make physically that will help me get to where I want to be? And that resolves my anxiety. Like, that takes away some of the angst. So I think a lot of people just get caught in maybe overthinking about what they should do or what they want to do. But like, just beginning by putting in the reps helps. Even if you can't see the whole thing, just making the decision to take steps towards your end goal really helps.
I appreciate that you did call that out. I recognize the bypassing that existed in the New Age community pretty early on, but also really hoped that just meditating and
Yeah.
smudging and all playing my drums and all of that would actually magically bring me the things that I was wanting to be different. I think people are catching on. From what I can tell on online, I think people are catching on that there is a lot of bypass that's happening, and I think that that's just a good mirror of how we're functioning um, as people that predominantly don't want to face the hard things, don't want to do the hard work. We do want it to be easy. We just do. And um the new age, new spirituality kind of gives you hope that it would be. It's just going to
Yeah.
be
It's very alluring in that
it's
regard.
very alluring.
Yeah.
Yeah. Very alluring. And there's a lot of discussion that I'm noticing about people healing from healing. You
Yeah.
know, I've spent all of these years trying to heal so that I could A, B, or
Right.
C, and I still don't have what I originally set out to receive, though there's definitely benefits that have been attained throughout it. Um, I had an interesting question. Oh, yes. If this helps anybody going off of your experience of putting in the reps, in my own back and forth of how am I supposed to show up in this life so that I can be successful in whatever it is that I'm wanting to be successful in? How am I supposed to show up? Who's the right me to bring this about, right? And something that has always been at odds with each other for me is this idea of like rest and tune into your body and stop, just go, go, go. That's a real female thing too. It's just like we go, 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 and we kind of ignore everything because we're constantly busy. But then at the same time, with your experience, it was we need to step, we need to take action, we need to move, to have movement. And so I've come to this landing of of the reps. I loved that you said the reps because I think a lot of us can relate to that in some way where there's something in our lives that we got good at, even if it was just a little bit good at it. But we typically don't start out good at it. I mean, we could take ourselves as walking. We all learned to walk as infants, but man, if I'm sitting on my butt, first of all, I'm never going to walk. But then if I decide, yeah, I want to try that thing that everyone else is doing, if I if I take my first few steps and I fall and I'm like, man, I suck at this, and I'll never run like all those other people are running. You know, it's obvious. The end of the story is obvious, which is why I love the idea of reps and that we're just taking one step at a time. You said that in your story too. It's just like I got to just do this one step at a time. And what I love about that is the allowance of that one step to be take action in this, make this call, talk to that person, go running. Or maybe that one step is, hey, we need to rest, we need to meditate, we need to have some prayer time here. So that one step is always an allowance of action, or it's never like inaction, but more internal work.
Yeah. We can't compare our journey to anyone else, right? Like that's the thief of joy is when you compare yourself to other people. And so I think just, for people starting out, like don't do that. And it's so hard in today's age because you can get on social media or you can look at where everyone else is at and be like, "Oh, I'm never going to get there." But like that's part of thinking for yourself too, is just that information doesn't help me, like this doesn't help me. Everyone's at a different place on the path and it's their own journey. So I just wanted to start with that because if you can if you continually compare yourself, like it's just hard, just makes it harder.
Yeah.
So
So
it,
you're in this area now of your story of recognizing that you are in the cult and some of the things that got you there. I don't remember if you touched on any of that.
yeah, I did. I like I was kind of looking for a savior. I was
Yes, that's
dependent
right.
and so I was in this cult and there was just so much that I couldn't see it at the time, but it was just social engineering, like group
Mm,
um think that this person kind of claimed to be like a savior for the planet, like she referred to herself as the lady of light, and um she everyone in her little bubble was convinced that she was that person,
mm,
and because she was that person she could bestow a special type of spiritual authority onto her followers. And then they had so like this person with the only special knowledge that she could have was then able to bestow this type of authority to other people, which like boosted their self-esteem because they didn't have any. So it was all fake, it was all synthetic. They call that the bubble reality. And so anyhow, all of this went on. um One thing I want to mention before is that one of the tactics that that they would use is, and I think this is common in some new age circles or whatever, but like people process together. They like get together and they'll like talk about their wounds and then they'll have the group kind of, I don't know, reaffirm that they're not that or help them. But like this person was using that as a tool to socially engineer the persona of what she wanted her partner or followers to be. And so by controlling the group and helping people process their stuff, which was ultimately just a denial and projection of that person's own unhealed pain, they would mold people into who they want it to be. Does that make sense?
Uh, um, I'm fascinated by the how, because it sounds like there's trauma bonding happening
For sure.
when you share in that way, in a way that's not seeking to take responsibility, right? And
Yeah.
actually heal that.
Um, I think a lot of people are waking up to these types of relationships with people in their lives, and I just hope that like this, what we talk about here can just be a kind of a light at the end of the tunnel, because it's not like you're that those things are unhealthy for you, but we stay in those things because we don't know any better. And it probably reflects a relationship we had as a child with one of our caretakers or something, right? So it's okay that it's happening, but like you can grow and you can continue to evolve and become the person who you really want to be. But it's sometimes you have to go through enough pain to get there, right? Like you
Yeah.
have to pass this threshold of like, okay, all right, this is kind of weird. Okay, now this there's something wrong here. Like I have to some people
Mm,
don't ever get to that like pain threshold, I think, and so they never really change because
mm,
it doesn't get bad enough. I want to believe otherwise, but I just don't think that it's I don't know that it's the other solution is out there. I think that people change because they've been through it, they've experienced enough pain, or they want it bad enough because they've had the pain. They know they've experienced a certain level of pain. And so they're like, I'm going to make something else. I'm going to do something different.
yeah, I like this because, and we can look at it maybe a little bit softer, where we're not like, oh, I have to experience this pain in
Right.
order to. I was talking with a girlfriend recently on the idea of what if we talked about these challenges that we have in our lives as glorious and meaningful as we talk about the obviously nice, smooth, beautiful things in our lives. Because I think we all know that the challenges may give us the opportunity to stretch, grow, become more. And
Right.
without that, then we couldn't. But we approach the challenge like it's our enemy versus like the cacao, like our partner, and someone that can is working with us and through us to bring about a change within our own selves. And for me, that's where purpose for me was, is like, oh, this change, this reclamation of this little part of myself was like my life's purpose. Because it's just it has only to do with me. But then the beautiful way that the universe works, and I'm not talking about the universe spiritually, I'm talking about it like really scientifically, is in this growth expansion attraction, and I've reclaimed this tiny part of me, and then I can now go forth and help others to grow, and like I had help, right? So it's a really fun like usage of energy. But the challenge, man, it's our friend. It's our friend.
Mhm.
So, and yeah, I agree with you. My brother has this saying, no one changes until it's too hard not to change. And that's kind of what you're saying. It's like some people, it never gets too hard. And so then, okay, that's where they're at. Okay. And when it's too hard for yourself, there you go. You got your friend to help you to make that change in your life that
Yeah.
maybe you wanted to.
Yeah. I want to talk like it's funny because you know I'm talking about this whole thing with the cult and getting into it and getting out of it was like this big fat external drama, right?
Mm,
When I got out of it, I I kind of made this commitment or pact with myself that I wasn't gonna have external dramas anymore. Like
mm,
it's not gonna be in my relationships or my friendships. It's just me against me. And so I got out of it, and that was why I started a business. I was like, this business is my vehicle for personal growth, and I want all of my not that this is how it happened, but in my mind, I was like, this is where I can face my challenges in a healthy way. This is a
mm,
vehicle for my hardships to be seen and allow me to like overcome or whatever. I shifted from having the external drama to just having like keeping it here because like I mean I still struggle internally like I have vices or whatever probably like anyone else but um I just was like I'm done having bad relationships like I want healthy friendships healthy familiar relationships and I want to do what it takes to build those
mm.
And so first and foremost, like starting a business was like that was my vehicle for growth and personal development. And I knew that as I worked on the business, I was working on myself because I just think that that's how it works, you know, like you have to become you have to do what it takes to grow a successful business. And it's kind of, if it doesn't work, like people might not want to hear this. It may, like, look at yourself, like how did this, maybe some of the personality traits or things that we might not be aware of in ourselves, like how is that affecting what we're creating as a business? And
Mm.
um so I chose that to be my reality after that. And uh to me that felt good because I had never really had something that that I felt like was fully my own and that was fully my own responsibility. So in a way it was like this ode, this commitment to myself to, like, we're going to build something, and its success or its failure is like all on me. And that kind of felt like a relief because I
Ugh.
no one else, like no other family member, no other relationship, it's not on their shoulders, it's on mine. And I wanted that as a young man, you know, I was like ready to bear bear up that weight.
I can see how that counteracts your desire to be saved at the same time. And how it's you. It's you that's saving you. I don't know if you've ever reflected on that, but the idea of it being a relief is really cool to me because you have this thought that you need someone to save you. But when you're like, I'm going to do this thing and it's all on me and nobody can save me, and it just it took something off of you to have
Yeah,
that be relief.
that I think that's a little black and white. Like if I could reiterate, like
Yeah.
like we need people, right? I can't
Hmm.
do it all on my own, and I haven't. I've had some help, but I've been the main guy. And um no, I've definitely had help. And we're, as humans, like we're such social creatures, like we need people. And I I guess to segue into, like, you know, my relationship with spirit or God or creator, like after I got out of that cult, I believed so much in the universe and the energy and like intuition and all that stuff. And after that, it was so hard, but I completely was like, I don't believe in any of this. I don't believe in God. I don't believe in my intuition. I don't believe in like my feelings. And I just became,
Mm-hmm.
I think I just pendulum swung to that the other end. And I wore that mask for a while until that became too hard. And I was like, I feel alone. I feel alone in this world, like without, um, you know, believing in something greater than myself. Like I know that I'm not the thing. I know I'm building my life, but like there's got to be some. I wanted to believe in the mystery of life, but I couldn't because of the trauma I had just went through. And so now I feel like uh I'm at this place where it's like more of a healthy balance. Like yes, we have to like listen to our gut and our intuition, but we also, it's the best metaphor for this is the rider and the horse. And the rider is like our mind. Um and some people are too in their mind, they're too controlling of their own emotions, and some people are too much just like the horse. It's this wild animal energy that is very powerful, right? Our emotions are very can be very powerful, and without direction, the horse can just wander. And but when you have a healthy balance between the rider and the horse, it's like it's very helpful because we are emotional creatures, and we do have an intellect, and using both of them uh, is only beneficial. And I don't think anyone should be one or the other. Like we have both, so you got to work with that.
Oh, Thank you for sharing that. I appreciate that. I agree with that. And I would love if you could talk about, I think the walk back. The pendulum swing is natural. I don't think I've ever seen somebody not pendulum swing,
Right.
right? In
Right.
all kinds of things
Yeah.
in our lives. Um, but the walk back to a more grounded sense of who you are, you know, because you're saying there's a mask on the other side of that pendulum as well. And that's a tricky road because all of a sudden, I'm assuming there are things that kept coming into your life to be like, Nikko, look, we are authentic to you, that you had shunned away because it was part of that scary cult over there or gonna lead me down that road. Um, and all of that, what I just said, could purely be projection based off of my own experience. But maybe one or two things that you decided to trust in and rely on that helped you regain balance.
Yeah, I think I had a poor sense of like I didn't have much confidence or much self-esteem
Mm,
going into the cult and during the cult. And I think that like just showing myself that I could do something that I didn't think I could do before, I leaned into that. I was like, "Oh my gosh, I'm doing this." And you can't always see the whole path, right? But I it's kind of funny. It's kind of a weird way of answering your question, but like I used to think I was like special, you know. I think people can get these like egos, spiritual egos or whatever. And I just accepted that I'm just as special as everyone else. And that was also like a relief because
mm,
you don't have to live up to anything. You don't have to, I mean, other than the expectations you put on yourself, but I leaned into that because I I don't know, I felt more no like uh relaxed, or like I didn't have to like put on this front to people, and I just wanted to. It's funny, I don't know that I like leaned into one particular thing that helped me so much, but I was just ready to build a better life, like because I had deeply experienced what I didn't want. It's like I
mm.
went and got so lost, and then I all of a sudden it became very clear what I wanted to make of myself. And that vision kept me going. And so I just, I'm still on that path.
It's great. I'm learning a lot from you, and I appreciate what you're sharing. Uh, my, because my own journey back was like very feminine, which means it was like a storm cloud. But I'm hearing like just a lot of real grounded, simple understandings, which I really like because we already exist in a convoluted universe that we don't understand.
Mhm.
Stepping into all that you're leaning into and learning to keep going. What were some of the things that you butted up against that caused you to say, I had to learn to keep going?
Um,
Like roadblocks,
yeah,
and this is more specifically in business. And
yeah,
now this I wanted a new way of experiencing life. And
yeah,
so I'm gonna do that. But there's still roadblocks that will come.
yeah, totally. They're always there. They're always there in business. Like the first major one, um, first of all, I had no idea what I was doing when I started. And so I didn't know that I had to like had my labels approved by the UDAF, Utah Department of Agriculture and Food. And so made my labels, right? But like they need the title, a certain font. They need the the name of the product to be front and center and a certain font and certain. So all of these things have to be on your product. And so I had my product in this local store called Water and Wellness. And I guess an inspector went in there and they saw my product and they're like, oh, this isn't acceptable. Your product has to have this, this, and this. And so they're like, you have to remove all your products from all the store shelves. You have to shut down your online store and stop selling until you get this fixed. And I was kind of like, oh my gosh, I was like, I I got to fix this, and I had to shut down my store for online store for a month or two. So all my sales stopped for a few months, and I was like, crap, this, what a setback. Like this sucks. And I
I
was
think that'd be a place you can get into victim mindset real fast too, because that is such a like a what's the deal with that?
right, like some external force or whatever coming to being
Mm,
like, you can't do this. Like you have to stop. Basically, you have to cut off your livelihood until this is fixed. That was hard. And
mm,
failing like that, that's just another one. Like I was getting my product into a store and I was kind of not very punctual with this guy. Like I was late to our meeting twice, and I was on my way to the store and he calls me and he's just like, "You know what? I don't work with people who can't be on time, so you can just forget about the whole thing."
mm,
And I was just like, "Oh my gosh." Like I was like, "What an asshole," right? Like, and then I was like, "No, he's right." Like people, it's like, thanks. That later, after I cooled down, I was like, he's right. Like I could have been on time and it wouldn't have been that big of a deal for me to be on
mm,
time. I'm just this. So anyways, um there's things like that that happen that would be easy for you. It makes it easier to stop or give up. I've just learned that when you can keep going when things are hard, you don't have to make a big deal out of these hardships or failures.
mm,
If anything, like the most simple way I could turn it into a life lesson is that you just got to keep moving. Don't stop because something happened. You're going to let one little thing, one little moment along your journey, like keep you from finishing. I think that's so silly. And so you just let your emotion, you cool off, take some time, and the emotions kind of pass. And then you're like, you know what? I have to keep moving. So, and I will say too, you mentioned earlier that like a lot of what I have to share kind of these simple understandings of life. And I really think that for me in my life, like that's what I really believe in, the fundamentals of things. That's all you need are the basics. And with those things you can build, because I used to overthink everything. I used to just spend so much time in analysis paralysis and like, oh, I'll think my way through this and blah, blah, blah. The picture that comes to mind is just like a good old farmer, like farm guy, like they're just out there just like putting in hard work, and they might not talk so much. Or there's this saying, it's like those that talk a lot should do more, and those that do should
mhm,
talk.
mm.
And it's kind of like that balance of, that balance again. But I think a lot of people don't do things because they're afraid to fail. But what they don't understand is that failing is actually the fastest way to learn. And when in business, like there's another saying, it's like fail fast and get back up. It's because the more times you can quickly fail, like you pivot, you adapt, and then you get back up and you keep going, and you know what doesn't work, and then you can tighten your focus a little bit. And I think that a lot of people that just haven't failed are afraid to do that, and it's not the end of the world. It's funny because it's counterintuitive, but like it's like, thanks for showing me what doesn't work.
To me, it's like not counterintuitive. It's directly our conversation surrounded the idea of challenge and having that challenge be our friend.
Mhm.
And we are just like, maybe this is where the illusion exists, is like, why do we look at challenge this way? Truly, like, why do we look at challenge in business, our relationships, in losing weight, and sports, athletic, anything like that, as this big bad guy when it's our friend. And with the business, the challenges that came your way, they didn't lead you to like, I give up on this because it's a little bit hard for me right now. Off of that, I wanted to ask, because people also get into this like conundrum of it just keeps not working. So when do I shift?
Right.
Call it quits or shift. But in your experience, what was there for you that was like, I'm going to keep doing this?
It's such a good question. I wanted to start this business when I was 22. I wanted to start a cacao business like in my early 20s, but I just wasn't ready, and I
Mm,
couldn't explain like why, but I do believe that everyone has this internal knowing that they know what they need to do, they just aren't doing it. I
mm,
honestly think it's that simple.
mm,
And that maybe like if they were to sit down and ask themselves like, okay, why isn't this business idea working? And they directed it towards themselves,
yeah.
I think there would be some things that would come up and then they would know. And to answer your question, I think that like today, if someone's running a business or doing some project or whatever and it just is not working, there's tons of advice out there. There's so many courses, coaches, tools, whatever it is that I'll tell you like this is how you can do it. The only way that something is going to work is your way. And so while all of those things can help, and everyone's different, so like this is just what works for me. I just had to make it my own process.
Mm-hmm.
Like all of those things kind of helped. And to be totally honest, sometimes they're actually more detrimental than they are
Mm,
helpful. You just have to figure out how it's gonna work for you. It might be different than what anyone else ever says, but like do it. Because that's what if that different way is like what's supposed to be brought into this world, and it's from your own uniqueness, it's from your own vision or your own heart. And I'm telling you, like I think that's why the most successful business owners, that I think that's what they're doing. they're
yeah.
they're not making it up, but they have their own vision for what something can be, and it's new and it's fresh and it's fun, and it works because it's what works for them. You can't adopt an idea that you're like, oh my gosh, like this is guaranteed to bring me this much money or whatever, but it doesn't sit right. It doesn't like work. It doesn't fit into you. You can't make it work. You have to have the creative vision yourself. Um, and then it's easier to unfold. So
Yeah. I think that when I left my religion, one of the things that was like really didn't sit well with me was the idea of it being the one right way. And this is the way to salvation, to God. And how I started to apply that all over my life. And you're right, there's a lot of noise out there. There's a lot of coaching from people who have achieved what they wanted to achieve. And they'll tell you how they did it. And I think it does get in our way. There's elements that you can take as wisdom. I had the most burnout repeatedly. As I would try this, I'd get burnt out. I try this, I get burnt out. I try this because I was trying to show up the way they told me I needed to show up. And it just was like, oh, this is not it. So I just am like, I'm underlining what you're saying. I agree with that. That's also been my experience. And
yeah.
sometimes I worry, though, based off of our conversation too, that am I bypassing hard things because I'm just like if I do it someone else's way, it's just so hard for me to do it.
Yeah.
Just like my wish and hope that playing the drums and smudging and doing mushrooms is just going to change my life all on its own. Really, really, if I showed up doing the business the way that feels good to me, really, really, but I think you're right. I think that's the successful business owners. That's what they did.
And it's not like, again, it's not all black and white, right? Like
Mm,
there's things that can help.
yeah.
Because if first of all, like if you're gonna do something, if you're gonna start a business, you got to think like, what can I do for 5 or 10 years? What can I do for 10 years
Mm,
that I'm gonna be into that I can actually stick with?
mm,
So for me, I'm like immediately, it has to be something I'm into. Like
mhm,
I can't just pretend that I love sunglasses and sell sunglasses but I really don't or something whatever. You have to be able to commit to that vision. And so if you have a personal connection to what it is you want to do, like that's the foundation. You have to have some kind of excitement, some kind of passion. And then out of that, it becomes easier because you already have that connection. Um, so I think that's very, very important
yeah,
to
I
start.
agree.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I've been to one of your circles that you hold. I'm wondering what you have decided off of your experience of the submersion with the shaman and being close to the earth in that um, immersive experience. The that education knowledge you gained while in the cult, and then now holding your own space. What have you decided
Yeah.
is how you want to show up?
Yeah. I love this question. I was hoping we'd get to it.
Yeah.
I just want to give people a very like no fluff, no spiritual fluff at all. Nothing extra, just the safe foundations from which people can build upon themselves. And it's not my job to like help them heal or make them happy. Like the ways that I give cues or like guide people to breathe, it's just the basics. It's not anything else because I don't want people to look at me like I'm a savior. I don't want people to think
Mm,
that I'm like the guru or whatever. I just want to give them their own foundation to connect with their own spirit or their own heart, however they experience that. And I think I learned that because in my past experience in the cult, it was like, it was all kind of pointed at something, at someone. It was all delivered in a way that kind of maybe glorified a certain energy or person or thing. And I just was like, I don't want anything to do with that. So how can I teach or guide a class in a way that's safe and that empowers people to connect themselves like outside of me. I just wanted it to be just that. In the way that I show up, I try and remove myself as much as possible and make it about them because I know what it's like to give my power away to like a teacher or somebody. And I don't want to do that. I want them to feel like they're coming there and they have good guidance, which allows them to connect more deeply with themselves. And that's it. So like I'm huge on these like simple things, right? Like these simple
yeah.
fundamental things.
Yeah.
Um,
I think that's necessary. It counterbalances the deep diving that is being sold, I guess. And personally, I'm somebody who is just like all intrigued. I'll forever be curious. And so sometimes the basics, I'm like, this is great. The basics are absolutely necessary. Um, I know this in many areas of my life. I often refer back to it with like I was a collegiate volleyball player, but the most important thing I could teach somebody was basic hand positioning and how to pass a volleyball. That because if you can't do that, who cares about the rest of it, right?
Right.
So I appreciate that counterbalancing, coming back to the basics. I think it's so needed, and the people are just coming away from a lot of dogma in their lives.
Mm-hmm.
So I think you're a great landing space. Like, let me catch you here and
Yeah.
just be basic in this. So not basic, but perhaps it would be so refreshing to me too. There seems to be a a crisis in meaning. People are having a hard time finding meaning in their lives and in life. Um, for yourself, how do you derive meaning? Or,
I think that, again, this comes back to like thinking for yourself, right? And more depthly, like, no one makes the rules of life except you. So when you hear maybe how other people figure out or find meaning or purpose in their life, then you're immediately like, oh, that, like, that, maybe that will be the thing. No, you have to decide yourself what gives you meaning. I think we're hardwired as in certain ways as humans, as men and women, and with our, like, the serotonin and dopamine and reward and pain and reward system. And while we have these higher ideals of like what meaning or purpose could be and how we give that to ourselves, I think that there's hardwired instinctual things inside of us that um, will always give men and women purpose and meaning. And it might be different for some people, but like, it's kind of funny. I go back to this simple stuff. I think that men should protect and provide, and I think that women, not that they should, but that this is like a baseline program that all
hmm,
humans have, and women can nourish and um, nurture, and make things beautiful. And I relate to that personally. I have had a partner for 4 years. We have an incredible relationship. It was evident to me that before we got together, she took on a more masculine role because she was like a single mom with some kids and she had to do that whole thing. And now um as my business has grown and like our relationship has grown and she can lean on me a little more,
hmm,
um that feels really good for me, that I can help provide for her and for like our little family. And not, we don't have kids together, but like I consider us a family, I
hmm,
guess. I kind of feel like I have a natural rebel in me, but I'm just like, don't let anyone else tell you what it should be. That's where you should start. Like, you should decide for yourself based on like what not just feels good and true for you, but like in a way that also empowers you to move forward into that purpose. And so while there's 1,000 different answers I could give you, I'm like, choose for yourself what you want that to be, and let it be something that like moves you forward into the version of yourself you want to be. And to kind of tie in the other thing earlier about like knowing when to rest or when to work, um I know that there's some guys out there that are all rider and they're like, oh, I'm just going to bust this out. I'm going to keep going. Like, I don't need to pay attention to my emotions or whatever. And then there's people that are too far on the other side. But I know for me that like if I work too much and I keep trying, I'm I grow inefficient. And if I just take a day or two of rest, that I'm so much more productive the next day. And then some other guys will tell you like there's no such thing as balance. You just have to crush it and just keep going. and that's what works for them. So
That's
again,
their balance.
yeah, like it's like uh, it seems as though everyone has their own parameters, but that the thing, it seems like the game is to constantly push your own parameters,
Mm.
and that's uncomfortable. But that's where growth is. Like that's what I think. Anything worthwhile is going to take time. It's going to take patience, and and it should challenge you. Um, that's kind of what I think.
Yeah. I appreciated when you're like, we're hardwired to find meaning. With our natural reward system that comes through our hormonal release, I was like, that is an argument. Why have I not heard that argument yet for deriving meaning in life? It's always been philosophical. So
Right. It's
that was good.
yeah, it's like the tree, like a tree only grows as tall as its roots. And so if you I like to think about that because so many people, especially in this new age spiritual community, but everyone, they're waking up to it more and more, but like we're so concerned with what's up here, like everything up here, but they tend to avoid the roots of things, like how are their family relationships? And I just think that that's where the real tangible things are.
Mhm.
It's easy to have like philosophical conversations that are mentally intriguing. Um, they're only as good as they are applied. So
Mm.
like if you're not in the application of like these thoughts or ideas, it's like they're not really helping. That's what I think. I became so much more practical and like after I got out of the cult because I was just like, man, all this stuff was just fluff. It was
Mm.
all a like pseudo reality. Like it's not real.
Mm.
Before I had gotten into that cult, I was like, I was so feminine. Like you probably wouldn't even recognize me. I was very much like a feminine person. And after that, I always tell people like that experience turned me from a boy into a man. and it was, I look at it as like a type of initiation that I went through. Again, another thing
Mm.
that I think is missing from our culture for young men and women are these rites of passages or initiations. And so I refer to that as my initiation. And so I was very different before and after that.
Mm.
So that's kind of why I'm here, why I'm expressing the things I'm expressing today, is because I've been through that. I've spent a lot of time doing nothing and meditating and hoping things would change because I like prayed and wrote things down. Again, like I want to believe in all of the goodness that the new age community has to offer, that like you can um I don't know, meditate and like make real changes in your life by doing that. Like I'm so pro all of those things, and now I'm just healthily skeptical about it because I want to believe it so bad that I have to question it and poke holes in it to
Hmm.
really figure out if it's true by testing it for myself.
Yes. Oh,
And so
that's so good.
it's really a tool to like counteract our internal biases because we all
Mm.
have them. We all
Mm.
have these internal biases that can um create blind spots really,
Mm.
like that. And so it's just a way to test, like, yeah.
Yeah, I really like that. Is there anything else that you want to share?
Yeah, I just want like uh my girlfriend, this is kind of personal, but her sister committed suicide a few days ago,
Oh, I'm so sorry.
and she is,
Ugh.
I know it's so sad, but life, when something like that happens, when someone close to you passes away, it has a way of just cutting through everything. Like all of a sudden nothing else matters. Your career, your job, your hobbies, like everything you're working towards just seems to not matter.
Mm.
And so you like you can feel that the grief that comes when someone passes, and it just makes you think about like how what an experience it is to be alive. And also I love that saying, the obstacle is the way, because it's not there to while it might break you in the moment, it's not there to make you broken. It's I think the hardship is one of the greatest gifts that we can experience in our in our dual polaric life, because it's the only way we can learn here. I'm a firm believer of that. It's the only way that we can have this full depth of experience to really know what is not, what we don't prefer, and then because of that we can understand what we do prefer. um and so hardship is really like, while it's hard, it might be the best thing that can happen for us.
Mm.
um and it's, it's hard to watch her family, but it's ironic because it's brought them all closer together.
Yeah.
um so I guess I just want to like encourage people to just, not that they have to like become strict doers or getting things done in the face of hardship, but like it's it's okay to go through hard things, and that just to maybe help them understand that it's not there to break them, but it can actually catalyze them into like the next best version of themselves.
Yeah. Thank you. And that's summed up a lot of what we discussed today, even in the idea of finding meaning when something like that happens and all the things that you thought
Right.
meant something falls away and you can get really down into the
Right.
roots of that.
It just reminds us of like how precious it is that we're all actually here and that we can like have a conversation, because it's we take so much for granted until something like that happens, and it just puts it back into perspective.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you, Nikko, very much. And then, um, yeah, I'm sorry for your girlfriend and her family, and that's just a challenge for sure, for
Yeah.
sure. Tell us about your business. Before you begin, I'm a user of your product. Your cacao is excellent. It's well sourced. I have tried several different types, so I feel like I can say that it does produce a really um, well incorporated drink with the type of cacao and the mix that you do. I don't know the whole process, but it's well done. I highly recommend it. And it is often my friend
Uh,
throughout I drink it in the evenings actually.
oh,
So,
cool. Well, thanks. I'm glad you enjoy it. I love hearing that feedback from people who use it. Yeah, like I've been very conscientious about how it's sourced. Just for like quick context, most of the cacao industry is what they call bulk chocolate, that comes from a man-made hybridized species of cacao that was bred to be disease resistant and high yield, but it doesn't have the same nutritional profile or active ingredient contents or flavor profile as the other about 10 to 20% of the cacao. And so basically there's like the hybridized species, which is like 80, and then the non-hybridized stuff, which is about 20%. But it's the non-hybridized species that is like the original cacao. And it's actually kind of a miracle that we have access to that type of cacao these days, because of the colonization of the Americas and the diseases that nearly decimated the cacao crop. And so they've kind of rebuilt it from nothing. And so this stuff that I source from Ecuador. Ecuador is top 3 for cacao export in Central America. So Ecuador is very well known for its high quality cacao. And this particular stuff comes from the Guayas region, which is on the west side of Ecuador, near kind of near the ocean. And it's an heirloom. They guarantee 100% Ariba Nacional species, which is kind of hard to do. But that single estate, that it's a family owned farm, and their whole mission since 2011 has been to preserve the 100% Nacional Ariba heirloom bean.
Mm.
And that's what they've done. And so they take a lot of pride in that. And then, and it's all sustainable. You know, they don't like they use compost teas and they prune. It's all natural
Mm.
stuff, and they're all paid a fair wage. It's, in fact, I think it's like better than fair wage.
Mm.
Um,
Awesome.
and if in the cacao industry, unfortunately, it's pretty common that like those farmers aren't paid very well,
Mm.
and then the profit goes to the companies, the big companies that buy them. So it's all very ethical. It's ethically sourced. And then the other ingredient that I'm really excited about because it's still up and coming is the Maya seed. And the it's got a whole bunch of different names depending on the regions that it comes from. Maya nut, Ramon, Ujuste, Capomo, Mojo. Um, but all of the Maya seed is wild harvested, so it comes from basically pre-existing wild trees growing in the rainforest. It's all from pristine rainforest soils, and these are like the granddaddies of the forest. They're the tallest trees. They form part of the canopy layer. Um, it's what the ayahuasca vine tends to grow up. It uses
Mm.
it as a trellis. The shamans used to use. They don't really do it anymore, I don't think, but they used to use Maya nut as a sort of regenerative after ayahuasca ceremonies because it has so much tryptophan in it, and tryptophan is like a neurotransmitter precursor, and so it helped replenish um, the neurotransmitters. But the Mayana is all wild harvested. It's all produced by women. There's no chemicals, non-GMO. It's bees and birds love the Maya nut trees, so we say it's bee and bird friendly.
Yeah.
And 10%, it's reforestation guaranteed, and then local consumption guaranteed. So we have built into our system for every 100 pounds that are harvested, 10% goes back into the community through local school lunch programs for kids. And then 3 trees are planted for every 100 pounds that are harvested. And so every June, they take a tally of how much they've exported or how much they've harvested. And then they go and plant all their trees in June. And so and really the lady that I kind of just picked the business up, but the forerunner, the pioneer, her name's Erica Voman. She's the executive director of the Maya Nut Institute. She's an amazing human. And since 2001, she's probably trained about 20,000 women throughout Central America on the benefits of the Maya tree for food, economy, and
Wow.
preservation. And so we've created jobs for women in very rural areas where typically only the men had jobs, and the men would, they spend it on beer, like they don't spend it on their family.
Mm.
And so the women get this money and then they can put right into their family.
Mm.
And so
Wow.
that gives me purpose. I feel happy knowing um, that I'm helping create impact and providing jobs for them and stuff. It feels good. And so those are the two brands that I've been building for about 4 years: MayaSuperfoods.com and NikkoCacao.com. And we do like farmers markets. We don't have a storefront, but we do online sales, bulk, wholesale. We're in 6 stores throughout Utah. And we do our own events like the one that you came to, where it's a cacao ceremony, a light yoga session, breath work, and guided meditation and sound bath. So thanks for having me on. Thanks for the opportunity.
You're welcome. You're welcome. My pleasure.